Hello, scholars. Today we'll be covering the triangle sum theorem, which studies the measure of angles inside of a triangle. So let's take a look at a couple of different triangles and see what we can find. We have a scalene triangle, which is a triangle that has no sides or angles that match. So all of our sides and angles will be different. An isosceles triangle is a triangle that has two sides and two angles that are the same. And an equilateral triangle has all sides and angles that are the same. Or congruent. And a right triangle is any triangle that contains a 90-degree angle. Okay? Take a second, copy these down, and we'll move on in a second. So in your homework and on the SATs, you will be asked to identify these angles based on their size. But when they tell you where to look for these triangles, you might get a little confused. I know that I do sometimes. So each angle in a triangle is labeled using 3 different points. And the middle point that they give you is always the vertex of that angle. For instance, if I wanted you to find this angle, I would ask you to find the measure of angle ACB. C is the middle point, and therefore it is a vertex. Likewise, if I wanted you to find this angle, I would ask you to find angle CAB, or BAC, with A being the middle point. And finally, B would be angle CBA, or angle ABC. Both of these are the measures of this angle. So let's move on to our theorem. So the triangle sum theorem states that the sum of all angles inside of a triangle always add to 180 degrees. The little m that you're given here, this little m right here, means the measure. So the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C is always 180. And we can see it right here. We are given two angles, 64 degrees and 68 degrees, and we are not told what x is. But we can figure that out because we know that the sum of all 3 angles, x plus 64 plus 68, is 180. So x plus 64 plus 68 is 180. And that means that x is equal to 180 minus 64 minus 68, which gives us that x is 48 degrees, excuse me. The other half of our triangle sum theorem is the exterior triangle sum theorem. And this tells us that the exterior angle is equal to the sum of the 2 opposite interior angles. And what that means is if we take two angles, that sum will equal the outside opposite corner, the exterior angle. So let's try a couple of examples. I'm going to give you 2 delta math examples and 2 SAT question examples. So the first one is the delta math question. The measures of these angles of the triangle are shown in the figure below, and find x. Well, if we use our triangle sum theorem, we know that 32 and 102 plus this x that we don't know what it is will equal 180 degrees. So now we just simply solve for x. We're going to subtract 32 from both sides, and we're going to subtract 102 from both sides. That's going to leave us with x is equal to, Sorry, I have to do a little bit of math here. 46 degrees. In the second example, we are told that the measure of angle A is 45 degrees and we need to find B. So we can do the exact same thing. We're just going to plug in what we know. We know that 31 plus angle A and angle B, which is actually 2B, is equal to 180. Well, we know what A is, so we're going to plug that in right now. That's going to become 31 plus 45 plus 2B equals 180. I'll take off this 31 and 45 by subtracting them from both sides. That's going to give me 2B is equal to 104. And then I divide by 2 to get B by itself, and I find that B is 52, which is A. Okay, in our second delta math example, we are told that the side of a triangle below is extended to form an exterior angle of 163 degrees. We need to find x. Well, now we're going to use our exterior sum angle theorem, and we are going to remember that these two angles right here are going to equal this, right? They're not looking for 180 degrees right now. We're looking for 163 degrees. So we're going to replace what we already know. We know that 45 plus whatever x is going to add to our exterior angle. Thank you to our exterior angle theorem. That gives us that 45 plus x equals 163. So I'm going to subtract 45 from both sides. And that gives me that x is equal to 118. Okay, our last SAT example here is a little bit more complicated on the surface, but using those two theorems and a little bit of what we've learned about angle pairs so far will help us get there. It says in the figure above, line AD intersects line segment BE at C, and if x is 100, what's the value of y? Okay, so we're going to use what we know. We know that three angles inside of a triangle add to 180, right? So we know that x, which is 100, plus 20, plus whatever this mystery angle here I'm going to call z, since we're already using y, is 180. Let's just start with that. So 20 plus x plus what I'm going to call z right here is 180, because they're all interior angles. So we know that x is 100, so we have 20 plus 100 plus z equals 180. And that gives us, after we subtract all this off, that z is 60. Okay, that's good, but that didn't give us our answer. But if you remember that our some of our angle pair relationships from last lesson, we know that these two angles, this angle here and this angle here, are vertical pairs, which means they're identical, they're congruent. So this is also equal to z right here, and we know what z is now. Z is 60. So we can take z plus y plus 40, because they're all interior angles, z plus y plus 40, and that's going to add to 180, because they're all interior angles of a triangle. Well, we know what z is. Z is 60 now. We still don't know what y is. Plus 40 equals 180. If I subtract 60 and 40, I'm going to end up that y is equal to 80, which is C. So a little bit more work, but once we got there and used our angle relationships, it wasn't too difficult. Okay, so now I've got some U-tries for you guys to do. You are going to need to use your angle pair relationships and your triangle sum relationships to solve these, but I fully believe that you guys can. So I want you guys to go ahead and take a minute, work these out, and then come back to the video for check your answers. In the figure above, AC is perpendicular to BC. And what is the angle of ABC? So if you remember, how do we find what angle they're talking about? Angle ABC starts here, starts at A, and then goes to B. So this is the angle that they want us to find right here. With information that we already have, we can figure out a couple of these things. We can figure out this angle right now, because we know that 55 degrees plus our right angle triangle here, which is 90, is going to give us this third point, because it adds to 180. So this mystery thing I'm going to call x. It's 180 degrees. So I subtract these off. I get that x is equal to 35. So now I know that x is 35. That didn't help us a whole lot until you realize that this is 35 degrees, and this angle right here is 30. This angle and this angle are vertical pairs. So this angle is also 30. Now we have two of our three angles, which means we can solve for the last one. We'll call that angle y. We know that 30 plus 35 plus our y is going to add to 180. Take off our 30 and 35. Oops, 35. And that's going to give us that y is equal to 115. So this angle right here, this angle is 115. Well, this angle right here that we are asked to find is the linear pair, which means that this angle, y, plus b, our angle b, has to add to 180 as well. So we have 115 plus b equals 180. I apologize for my 8 and my 5. But that is going to give us that b is 65. And here's our second U-try. This one is obviously going to use our exterior triangle sum to figure out what is going on here. I'm going to give you guys a second to work it out, and then we will work it out together. Okay, so if you remember, our exterior sum angle literally says that our two inside have to equal, and they're added together, this outside angle. So we're just going to write it as it is. 48 degrees plus our x degrees is going to be equal to 3x minus 40. Well, there's only one variable here, so we can solve for that. I'm going to add 48 to both sides, or 40 to both sides. And that is going to add, that is going to add to 88 plus x is equal to 3x. I'm going to move this x over. That's going to give me 88 is equal to 2x. Divide by 2 on both sides. Gives me 44 is equal to x. And that is A. Hopefully this helped you out, and if you ever need to go back, you can always rewatch the video. Good luck with your homework, and if you have any questions, feel free to email.